and gentlemen, to a broadcast of Jerusalem's gates. I know it's been a little bit since I put out a video. We're trying to focus a lot of time on the street ministry, which some of it I've broadcasted on Jerusalem's gate. But I want to talk about something very important. We touched on this matter before, but things have escalated in the world affairs. 2 Chronicles 7:14. Bear with me. And please stick it out. It's a short video. It's very, very important you watch this video. Okay, 2 Chronicles 7:14. I hope you can see this. I'm going to read it. If my people, which are called by my name. Now, the United States was supposed to be the Christian beacon of all nations in the world. This is my own opinion, and I think I'm right about this. If my people, which are called by my name, Christians means Christ ones, and the United States is supposed to be the largest church, Christian beacon nation in the world. Now we've forsaken the Lord, but we have to reclaim the United States back as a Christian country again. I'm telling you, it's imperative, ladies and gentlemen. It's imperative. All right, this is what the Lord wants. Shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. What are some of the wicked ways? Giving evil more rights than good. The things that you're seeing lately has escalated of turning away from Christian things and more into satanic things. Okay. Turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. That their land, meaning the United States of America. I personally believe that, and I think I'm right about this. I really do. I think I'm right about this. Now, the United States has forsaken the Lord. We started making a turn back to it, and then we were throwing a curveball, and then now you've seen recently these laws that are anti-Christian come into effect, and persecution of Christians that's trying to save people's souls and trying to bring our nation back towards to a nation that our forefathers created us to be, and that's a one nation under God, a Christian nation. Now, if the Lord set aside, all right, okay, let me take a step back before I say this. God's country, the only country that the Bible says will be around forever is Israel. Ancient Israel forsook the Lord on 2 occasions, and God used a more evil country, a pagan country that worshiped demonic pagan gods, to set aside Israel, not once but twice in ancient Israel. Now, if God will do that to his own country, don't you think Christ would do it to what's supposed to be a Christian nation? I think he will. I think he will. Matter of fact, I know he will. If he did it to ancient Israel, why do we, and that's his country, God's ordained country, the eternal capital of the universe is Jerusalem. And what makes us think, or have we all grown so arrogant that we think that God will not do that to us? Well, the Israelites thought the same thing 2 times. And it took setting aside Israel 2 times to get it through Israel to quit praying to pagan gods. Now when you go to Israel, and I've been to Israel, they pray in the streets at the bus stops. It's very common to see people praying as they're waiting on their bus. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. It's a very holy nation. It's dealing with its own spiritual conflicts, but it's God's country. And May 14, 1948, God restored it as and regathered the Jews May 14, 1948. So 2 Chronicles 7:14 I truly believe he's talking about the United States, a way to save the United States of America. Okay, now, there's a lot going on in the world, ladies and gentlemen, that God is telling us through things happening in the world. We all know what's happening in Ukraine. As the title reads, as Ukrainian forces advance, West plays down threat from Russian nuclear weapons. So there's a lot of talk about nuclear weapons now. And that's a very serious conflict. It can easily turn into World War III. Now, we just had North Korea fire a ballistic missile right over Japan. Just did it. And then you have Iran, that I personally believe they have a nuclear weapon. But we gonna set aside, even if they do a nuclear agreement, they still gonna work on a nuclear program. Netanyahu approved that with the old nuclear deal. So we got Iran that will be a nuclear nation. And ladies and gentlemen, if Iran is not stopped, and the capability of building a nuclear weapon is not eliminated, they will have a nuclear stockpile of nuclear weapons given enough time. They've already got the missile striking capabilities. They made sure they got that first. And I can assure you, their plan from the beginning, with or without a nuclear deal, is to obtain nuclear weapons. Because there is a certain fact to the situation. When you become a nuclear weapon country, countries do treat you a little differently. You're less likely to be invaded or have things done to you by other countries. It's just that simple. I don't like nuclear weapons, but the fact is, it's a proven fact that countries with nuclear weapons don't get invaded and stuff like that. But getting back, ladies and gentlemen, there's so much happening in the world right now. As I told you many years ago on Jerusalem's Gate, these signs which you're seeing, like the Ukraine situation, this rocket, this ballistic missile being fired over Japan, Iran getting nuclear weapons, the constant on and off wars in Israel, wars popping up. When one settles down, another one pops up. We've seen nothing but wars and rumors of wars. Exactly what Jesus foretold would be one of the signs. Now, these signs that we're seeing, these wonders, these great signs from heaven, which includes some wrath, is God's attempt to try to convince the world to turn to Christ. And He's making a special plea to the United States of America that we're headed in the wrong direction, that we've forsaken the Lord, and we need to return back as a Christian nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying we have to force people to be a Christian. You have a right to worship that doorknob if you want to in America. But we were created by our forefathers. The initial settlers left Christian persecution to come to a place where they can be Christians without being persecuted. And now what's happening? Christians are being persecuted. It's happening every day. I hear stories of Christians being persecuted. That's just trying to bring our country back to the Lord, because they have enough sense and they can read the Bible and they can watch the news and they can put 2 and 2 together and it equals 4, that God is not happy that we have forsaken Him. He's grieved. He happens to love the United States. I don't think it's God's divine will that the United States, matter of fact, I know it's not. It's not His divine, perfect will that the United States be set aside. He's trying everything in His power for that not to happen. And what's going to bring our nation back to being a Christian nation is 2 Chronicles 7:14. Is humbling ourselves and turning away from these things that started our country turning away. It started escalating in the 1960s, rebellion against government, everything happening and more laws being put in effect that are anti-Christian. And nowadays, Christians are becoming increasingly scared that if they speak out or try to save America, that they'll be persecuted. It's gotten to that point. And that's a sign that's saying that we are very close, our country is, of God doing something, because I do not think God will allow a country that He has created to be a Christian nation imply to Him that we serve evil things by passing evil laws that give evil more right than good. Abortions, for example, perfect example. Whoever thinks that killing a child in the womb of a mother is right is not thinking coherently. That child needs to be protected. And for God's great gracious and His gracious kindness, He allowed He touched the hearts of the Supreme Court justice to overrule Roe versus Wade. That doesn't eliminate abortions, but that's a step. That was a step made by people voting for a person that selected Supreme Court justices that is more geared to the Constitution while our country was built, and that's a result of that. And it bore fruit later on, and the Supreme Court took up for the child in the womb that can't take up for him or herself, that needs the Supreme Court to take up for them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very acquainted with being persecuted, and I'm very acquainted with pain. And I'm telling you, the earth is going through birth pains, and it's the Lord crying out to the world to prepare for His return, to turn to Him, and for our nation to turn back as a Christian nation before it's too late. And we're getting very close to that point. I hope it touched somebody's hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very far from being perfect. I'm a sinner saved by the grace of God. And so are you, if you're a Christian. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States has to make a decision soon if we want to be a Christian nation or not, and return as a Christian nation. And God's given us, He's not going to force us to be a Christian nation. He will warn us. He will plead with us. He will send wrath. He will send grace. He will bless after He sends wrath. Or He may send wrath after He blesses. He will do everything in His power except to make the decision for us if we want to be a Christian nation or not. And it's coming up very soon that we're going to make a decision if we want to be a Christian nation or not. I pray with every ounce in my living soul that our nation is smart enough to read the Bible and to read the news and study the news and put the dots together. And it's very obvious God is making an appearance on earth for a reason. These things that's happening to the earth that nobody can explain is God. Please, for the love of all humanity, and for the love, if you love our country, you would want it to be what God created it to be. And that's a Christian nation. Not a nation that protects evil and persecutes people that's trying, not saying they're perfect, nobody's perfect, but trying to live a good life and to pray for our country and to try to save our country. The time is short. It's very short. It's coming up if we want to be a Christian nation or not. And we have to make the decision. How do we make that decision? Fulfill 2 Chronicles 7:14. Fulfill 2 Chronicles 7:14. And I'll go over it, and that's the end of the video. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. Our land definitely has been afflicted, and it's God's doing. And I'm telling you, He's doing it, and then He sends grace, and He's trying to convince us that our country's headed for catastrophe if it doesn't turn back to being a Christian nation. Israel and the United States was formed for a purpose. We know what Israel's purpose is. That's the only country guaranteed to be around forever. Does that mean that we're not going to fulfill 2 Chronicles 7:14 and keep turning away from God? I pray not. I pray that we make the decision to fulfill 2 Chronicles 7:14 and be a Christian nation. He's not looking for perfection. I can assure you on that. But what He's looking at is a new direction. And that's to be returning back as a Christian nation. He's not asking us to be perfect. He'll work with us. Trust me on that. With that, you're watching and listening to another broadcast of Jerusalem's Gate. Remember, we love you dearly, and we catch you on the next broadcast.